Oh, wow. Hey, how you guys doing today? Thank you once again for tuning in. This is part 7 of this series right here. Hope you guys been enjoying the last 6 parts and all the rest of the videos. If you're new to my channel, just know that in this series, we're just reading newspaper articles. In my other videos, we actually prove and correlate many of the things we find in these articles, showing primary sources, anthropology, archaeology, ethnology, geology, genealogy, and things like that, So make sure to catch up to all the videos. Before we begin today reading the newspaper articles, a lot of these finds and recorded reports, people have a hard time believing because they still believe that the old world is on the other side. They think Mesopotamia and ancient Egypt over there is older, but over here is a lot older. We've proven this in many ways. America's the true old world. Make sure to catch up to the videos. We got a book here. Shout out, first of all, to Love Legacy. He's the one that found this and sent it to me. So shout out to him. He's always finding great things and sharing them with me. This was a big one, major drop. This was sponsored and made by the National Geographic. Atlas of Indian Nations by Anton Truer. National Geographic, Washington, D.C. Do you guys see that? National Geographic. All right. This book is going to tell you something we've been telling you last couple of years. America's the true old world. It's older than Egypt. It's older than Asian civilizations. It's older than the British Isles. It's going to tell us right now. Okay, we're going to go right into the introduction. Right in the introduction, we go to this paragraph right here to the right. It says, coming to America. We're going to zoom in. It says, Indians are indigenous to the Americas, okay? Period. Although many people examine the prevailing theories of Paleo-Indian migrations from Asia to North America and end up thinking we're all immigrants here, all right? They think those are all theories, those are all opinions from people who don't actually do research and believe everything they heard in elementary school. Yeah, our teachers lied to us, guys. Listen to what it's going to say here. It says, the fact of the matter is that Indians arrived in the Americas and developed a diverse array of cultures and languages, inhabiting the entire hemisphere, all right? So there was already peoples here is what they're telling you, all right? And they developed high culture, high civilization, before, and this is in the entire hemisphere, right? Before there were any humans living in what is now England. The British Isles were entirely encased in ice until 12,000 years ago, all right? So all these ancient pigs and all these Chatham clan, all these people, they weren't there 12,000 years ago, but there was people here in the Americas. And not only there, guys, listen to what it's gonna say. And many thousands of years before the emergence of ancient Chinese, Egyptian, or Phoenician civilizations, before any civilizations on that side of the earth, so-called Egyptian, right? They're letting you know here, National Geographic, guys, it's not me telling you. America was populated way before and had high culture, high civilization, way before the ancient Chinese, the ancient Egyptians, or Phoenician civilizations, along with the British Isles people. Nobody knows the details of exactly when or how the first Americans arrived. It is geologic certainty that they were extended periods of time from 45,000 to 11,000 years ago, when vast quantities of the Earth's water sucked into massive glaciers, and Asia and North America were connected by land, not just ice. All right? Here we're saying there was a large part of America that was connected to Asia. America is Asia. It was connected. This is the farthest east, or what they were calling India Superior. This is where Marco Polo came, where they never found. The Grand Khan was here, yeah, the land of, or kingdom of Prester John. Beyond the Anian Strait, shout out to Drop Nation and Khan Drop, says the footprints of prehistoric camels and horses that have traveled from the Americas to Asia have been found on that land bridge. All right, camels and horses, what? They came from here. They originated in America. We've already proven to. Check out the previous videos on that. All right, from America to Asia and then into Africa. And then it keeps going that they thought, humans came from Asia, but that theory has changed and evolved dramatically over the past 20 years. You need to update your research, okay? That whole Pan-African thing and the whole Mesopotamia, cradle of life thing, that's all been debunked already. This is going to be mainstream soon. And these articles we're reading today, what they were finding before and reporting, is just corroboration. It's just more proof of what is really here in the Americas and what they've been hiding. So now let's get on to the video. Shout out to Love Legacy. All right. And now we continue waking up with analog. Yeah. Make sure to follow the brother right here in Twitter. Find them at _analog_9. That's a lot of good work. He's been doing a lot of good networking, and he's always willing to share his stuff with others. And one thing I heard him say is you don't have to have a Twitter account to actually see what he posts. But if you do have a Twitter account, make sure to follow him. A lot of great newspaper articles here that we've never seen before. As it says here, giants in those days, Arizona, 1890. Discovery of prehistoric remains. Workmen engaged in digging a well at a depth of 32 feet hit a gravel drift from which they exhumed a gigantic skull, 38 inches in circumference. Says here, giants in those days. Cornelius Jones, a well-known and wealthy landowner of Spencerville, Allen County, in this city on business, said, "By the way, there was a remarkable discovery of prehistoric remains in our section the other day. The instance came under my own observation last week. I had occasion to visit the farm of J. Henley, about 2 miles west of Kossuth, just across the border in Anglais County. Some workmen were engaged in digging a well and had descended to a depth of 32 feet when they struck a gravel drift from which they exhumed a gigantic skull, 38 inches in circumference. Further down, the other bones of the giant were found. There can be no doubt as to the kind of remains. The thigh bone measured 3 feet 2 inches in length, and the spinal column is 4 feet 2 inches long. All the bones were in excellent state of preservation and were probably those of a prehistoric warrior from Amaruca, who was killed in battle, as the skull seemed to have been crushed with a blunt instrument. The skull skeleton measured 8 feet 11.5 inches in height, and when clothed with flesh, must have been a tremendously powerful man. All right, do you see what they found here? Now, according to this map right here, this is the possible location right here. Kossuth is right here. We continue. It says here 50 skeletons, Nevada, 1892. 50 skeletons found, prehistoric implements, mound builders, well-established fact. Proctorsville, Ohio. Says here 50 skeletons. Ironton, Ohio, August 25th. Recently, the findings of some 50 skeletons and parts of a skeletons on the farm of Luke Kelly attracted wide attention. At first, it was supposed the remains were those of victims of river pirates, but the latter discovery of prehistoric implements, fixed them as the skeletons of mound builders. Interest in the discovery spread, and it is now a well-established fact that at Proctorsville, a few miles above this city, are the ruins of a buried city. The streets were paved, there were aqueducts and many evidences of refinement. The city must have been large, though a great part of it appears to have slipped beneath the Ohio River. Okay? A prehistoric city they have found here. They're telling you it was very well built. The architecture, it had aqueducts, paved streets, everything. Complete city. And a great part of it slipped beneath the Ohio River. It is believed that proper excavations would reveal a world of treasures. All right? And what did they do? Oh, they left that on the hush. We continue waking up with analog. Says here, prehistoric city found. Discovery made in San Jacinto Mountains in California. Los Angeles, California, March 19th. In the San Jacinto Mountains near the edge of the Coachella Valley, B.F. Bond of Long Beach has just made one of California's most important archaeological discoveries. He has found the ruins of a prehistoric city containing from 700 to 1,000 well-preserved stone houses, evidences of paved streets, and strange earthenware of fine types are found, okay? And they never told anybody about this, huh? A prehistoric city, Oregon, 1905. A discovery has been made in the Andes Mountains, 250 miles from Arauco, Chile, of a city deserted for 2,000 years, but once inhabited, presumably by Aztecs of much larger stature than those who lived in Central America, according to the story told by two men just returned from Chile, all right? So they're just saying Aztecs probably. They don't know. How can Aztecs be down there older? Aztecs are kind of more new, you know? They expect that their story will add to the scientific knowledge of South American prehistoric races and are now hurrying east to present the result of their researches to American and German scientists. The discoverers of the ancient city are Professor Emil von Verges of Berlin, a famous archaeologist of Germany, and William J. Hemingway of New York, who has spent several years exploring South America. At the head of a party of 5, they have spent a year in South America on a special expedition of exploration. The deserted city was found in a small valley, reached only after weeks of hardships. It was in an excellent state of preservation. The explorers finding stone houses supposed to have been erected 20 centuries ago, crumbling and grown over with mosses and shrubs, just standing upright. Ancient tools of husbandry, household implements of stone, and hermetically sealed graves. Hermetically sealed graves give evidence of a high state of civilization. A large quantity of articles are being taken east. They're being what? Taken to the east. These articles, right? These artifacts they're finding here in the Andes, they're bringing them to where? The east. They're going to put them in the museums over there, guys. They're going to say, oh, we found this in Egypt. Oh, we found this in Babylon, Iraq. They're clearly telling you in this article, right? The articles are being taken east. The city comprised 1,500 souls. Von Burgess believes that either flood or disease exterminated the prehistoric race. Probably the latter, all right? Or flood. Now, since we're reading newspaper articles and we just read that story, right? We're going to the New York Times here, right? NewYorkTimes.com. Says here, a legendary lost city in the Andes gives hint of mysterious culture by John Noble Wilford, right? This was written in February 1st, 1985. It says, high in the Andes of Peru, explorers have examined and photographed in great detail the remains of a legendary lost city that archaeologists believe may rival the spectacular Inca ruins at Machu Picchu. The ruins of vast walls and terraces, buildings and tombs and statuary, all perched on the steep, cloud-shrouded eastern slopes of the Andes overlooking a nameless river, were presumably a major center of an early, resourceful, and mysterious people whose civilization flourished long before the glory days of the Incas, all right? Long before the Incas. American and Peruvian archaeologists, excited by the prospects of making important discoveries about a previously unknown culture, announced plans yesterday to return to the remote jungle site next summer to begin comprehensive studies that could continue over the next 15 years. The announcement was made at a news conference at the University of Colorado at Boulder. I remember this was from 1985, so whatever happened. Mystery about culture. The site known as Gran Pahateng was apparently occupied by an unknown people from AD 500 to 1500. According to preliminary studies by University of Colorado archaeologists, it is situated in the province of San Martin in a cloud forest, 8,600 feet above sea level, a place of almost perpetual rain, dense jungle growth, and no human habitation. All right, so at one point, that was a metropolis right there. And it's funny how they disappeared, supposedly, or they just, stopped being a culture right when the Spaniards, the Sephardic Jews, Moorish, and other Catholics came by. One of the mysteries of these people, beside their identity and relationship to the Incas and to other known prehistoric cultures on Peru's north coast, is how they managed to maintain an apparently thriving culture under such daunting physical circumstances. Dr. Jane Wheeler, an anthropologist at the University of Colorado, said, "We're intrigued by the evidence of dense human habitation because such jungle areas are apparently unoccupied in other parts of the world. High civilization." Dr. Tom Lennon, a University of Colorado archaeologist who explored the site last summer, said in a telephone interview that the evidence at Gran Pahatén was of a high civilization that developed a distinctive style of architecture and might have had an advanced agriculture. The site is probably only one of many in the area, Dr. Lennon said, and may not even be the most important one. He's saying there might even be more that they haven't found, and it might not even be the main site. Dr. Wheeler and Dr. Lennon are to direct the new exploration program, which is being undertaken with the cooperation of the Peruvian Institute of Culture and two Peruvian universities. Commenting on the plans, Dr. Craig Morris, the South American curator at the American Museum of Natural History in New York, said that Gran Pahatén is an impressive site, very likely to produce interesting and important discoveries. According to Dr. Luis Lumbreras, a scholar of prehistory at the Institute of Andean Archaeology in Lima, the ancient peoples who inhabited the remote eastern slopes of the Andes are the last undescribed pre-Hispanic civilization in Peru. You guys listen to that? They're undescribed. They don't know who these people were. So if they don't know who these people were, how can they say who they were not? Right? Who's these people that disappeared who are undescribed, huh? And how come you don't know where you're from, huh? Today. Scholars regard the pre-Hispanic civilizations centered in Peru as the most impressive in South America. The heyday of the Incas, who controlled a region from Colombia south to Chile and Argentina, lasted less than 300 years, ending with the arrival of the Spanish in the early 16th century. The arrival of who? Who? The Spaniards. Who's the Spaniards? Gran Pahatén has been a legend and lore that has fascinated archaeologists for years, particularly after the discovery of Machu Picchu in 1911. The phrase "lost cities" was popularized by Hiram Bingham, the discoverer of Machu Picchu, to characterize the ruins of ancient cities in the mountains of Peru, lost to all but a few nearby residents. It has been the subject of rumors and unsuccessful expeditions since the beginning of this century, Dr. Lennon said of Gran Pahatén. In 1963, Peruvian archaeologists found the site, spent a few days of reconnaissance, and then abandoned it again to the jungle. The lost city was lost again. Impetus for explorers. But last summer, 4 Coloradans, inspired by the legends and the 1963 discovery, trekked to the site by mule and then by foot, an arduous journey of several days, and spent more than a week examining and photographing the ruins. Accompanying Dr. Lennon were Dr. Alan Storno, a surgeon, Dr. Alan Stormo, a surgeon, John Lovett, a businessman, and Dr. Strand Brenton, another surgeon, all of Boulder. Dr. Lennon said many of the structures at Gran Pahatén were in remarkably good condition. 3-foot-high wood carvings, still well preserved, hung from the eaves of slate-tiled roofs over burial towers built into the mountainside. Do you guys hear this? Large pieces of fabric and undamaged pottery were found. decorative exterior paint on some structures was preserved. The burial towers were connected by a narrow pathway skirting the edge of a 1,000-foot cliff. Cairns, possibly burial places, dotted the site. Below the burial towers were at least 16 multi-storied round buildings and 2 rectangular structures, the heart of Gran Pahateng. Some of the decorations included carved stone faces with representations of feather headdresses, okay? With what? Representations of feather headdresses, all right? I'm going to show you guys that wasn't only in North America. I found a lot of the Maya vases showing the Mayas wearing feathered headdresses just like the Sioux wear. So they found it here too, geometric designs and drawings of birds and animals. The explorers also discovered the signs of terraced fields cut into the steep mountainside, which they said indicated both sophisticated agricultural practices and long-term habitation. Gran Pahateng is situated in a region of unspoiled jungle and steep river valleys that has been set aside as the Rio Apiceo National Park. The rivers in the region are tributaries of the Amazon. You understand? These are sources for the Amazon. All right, so we're going to continue. That was pretty cool, right? This ancient city up there nobody knows about. Who's the people that build it, right? This one was very interesting. It says here, linked to prehistoric times, Maryland, 1921. Let's get right into the article. It says here, discovery made in South America strengthens theory long held concerning ancient land bridge. All right, they're not talking about to Africa. They're not talking about to Asia. They're talking about from South America to Australia. A report has been published by the Field Museum of Natural History at Chicago, describing an animal discovered in South America, which is a survivor of a prehistoric period. This animal, known as Cynolostes, is small and looks like a sharp-nosed rat, but is different from any other living animal. Its bones and teeth are essentially the same as those of a group of animals now extinct and known only through fossils, hundreds of thousands of years old. Do you guys hear that? It was still surviving here in America. It has a pouch like the kangaroo, and its existence may indicate some truth in the theory that South America and Australia were connected by land in prehistoric times. Since pouched animals exist in both places, the original stock may have spread from South America, that's probably what it is, to Australia, or vice versa. I would say because mammals, remember, are coming out of America, then most likely, remember we found the Brasilodon, the oldest mammal fossil in the world. It's here in America. So most likely they are right when they're saying the original stock may have spread from South America to Australia. Or it may have originated in a long vanished continent, the so-called Antarctica, huh? Well, we're very connected, the tip of South America, literally to Antarctica. It's like a gateway there. And spread north to both continents over a land bridge, which is supposed to have linked the three. All right, this is from Popular Mechanics magazine. All right, very interesting what they're letting you know here. All right, so today we're also going to be getting a little bit into the Ancient American magazine again, just like on the other part. A lot of great articles that correlate the findings of these newspaper articles, what people are writing. The owner of Ancient American magazine has done a great job compiling a lot of these unknown investigations, explorations, researches into ancient America, things that they have never told us about. So I love including it in this series. It says here, Burroughs Cave, fraud or find of the century, all right? We're not getting into that today, but that's a future video. Trust me, guys. Again, this is volume 1, issue number 2. It says here, the Elliot Pendant, a Celtic goddess in Maine. We're going to read this article right here. It says, a few years ago, Walter Elliot of Grand Lake Stream, Maine, found a stone cyst that appears to be very old grave. Red ochre was present, and all other signs were also typical of the red paint culture, so common in the East, all right? The red ochre people, red paint people, check out the video I have on them. Except it had a few carved stone artifacts that appeared to be European origin. Photos of the cyst were distributed in hopes someone might help interpret the finds. Most important of these items is a slate spear point and a pendant. The slate is too soft to be a real weapon, so it obviously was a ritual object to be buried as a grave offering. One side portrays a bear with two spears in it. The other shows a bearded man wearing a tunic with one arm and one foot missing. It appears that the man killed the bear but lost his own life in so doing. Perhaps this was his grave. It is covered with lines resembling Ogham writing, copies of which I sent to Burrow Dawson. He thought he detected a Celtic word signifying the act of striking. As it turned out, one line was natural seen in the rock, so it wasn't Ogham writing after all, and I had to withdraw Dawson's interpretation. The pendant is another matter. I was able to recognize its writing as Phoenician. Semitic languages read from right to left, so this clearly spells BNYW-TT. A side of the pendant portrays the all-seeing eye, a god of one of the best-known images in all iconography. We still use it on our dollar bill. The obverse features a human face sporting four rays under a moon. The moon was traditionally female, the well-known icon of Tanith or Tanith from Carthage, and was often shown with the same crescent over her head. All right, so this is the pendant they're talking about. As you guys can see, this is what they found here. The rays comprise the same icon modern artists used to represent the halo. Clearly, the pendant is dedicated to a European lunar goddess, Tanith, Diana, Artemis, etc. The pendant's BNYW so closely resembles the name of the Celtic goddess, it seems obvious that Bayanu is intended here. However, the phonetics are modified somewhat. The spelling means that the sound was B-on-O, as we might pronounce it, but more like Benyu. I'm not the first to claim that the Celtic Bainu is the same goddess as Tanith. Noted researcher Barry Fell, America BC, page 236, makes the same connection. He tells of a cave used as a temple in which was found a carving of Tanith cut into the natural rock. Beneath it appears the name Bin in Ogham letters. Fell speculates the Bayanu stems from an Indo-European root meaning she of the Joni. The Joni is the sanctus for the female sex organ, but in view of its spelling on the Elliot pendant, I like to offer a possible alternative. The word may be Semitic rather than Indo-European and means daughter in Semitic languages. The termination of A signifies a female while Ben means son, so Benah could be a proper word meaning daughter. Beth is Hebrew but also means house, indicating the function of homemaker for a woman. In earlier times, before the patriarchal system was imposed and women had full equality, Benah was used instead of Beth. The sound of Ben-U could just be a Celtic accent for Benah. It is thrilling to realize that the object now known as the Elliot pendant once many centuries ago hung around the neck of a Celtic visitor to the shores of prehistoric America. All right, you guys hear that? So what if they're seeing it in reverse? What if we brought that over there? And there's another image. This is the back of the pendant, as you guys can see here. All right, with the eye, as they're seeing the all-seeing eye. We continue waking up with analog. Mud-flooded melted stone buildings found completely buried below ground in Wisconsin. All right, for all the mud flood followers and researchers out there, this is one for you. It says here, prehistoric discovery in Wisconsin, Kaukauna, Wisconsin, September 26. Workmen engaged in excavating a sewer came upon the ruins of a stone building at the depth of 8 feet. The stone first found bore traces of fine workmanship and polish. Further diggings developed a quantity of ashes, about 25 bushels of which were removed. When another wall was struck, the stones were finely placed, some being blackened as if by fire and smoke. Others must have been subjected to great artificial heat. Listen to what's they're finding here. As they had crumbled into lime. The work was found but a foot or two above bedrock and shows evidences of workmanship that could have been performed only by a highly civilized race. It must have been done centuries ago, as a large elm tree had grown over the ruins. All right, this is old, guys. This is what they're telling you, what they're finding here. The discovery has led to the advancement of many theories. All right, this is again more discoveries that they never told us about, they never followed up on. They buried all this stuff. All right, the wall has to have been built by civilized people, and it seems like some great artificial heat. Are we talking about drakons, or what are we talking about? Great fires. All right, one of the ages of the world was destroyed in a great fire, according to the Maya. Says here, tablets, carvings, and mummy in Ohio cave. High civilization, huh? Adams County, Ohio is rich in remains of prehistoric mounds and fortifications and is the mecca of enthusiastic archaeologists. Most of the mounds are on alluvial bottomlands in the Ohio River. 17 miles northeast of Manchester is a prehistoric cavern in which wonderful discoveries have lately been made of great interest to the scientific world. They threw much light on the character and habits of this remarkable people, evidences of whose high civilization have been preserved to us. A correspondent of the New York Sun lately visited this cavern and gives this description of recent discoveries. The entrance to the cave is choked up with the debris of ages, but traces of a flight of steps are to be seen. The entrance is at the bottom of a sinkhole, which is nearly in the center of a level field. This field is 200 acres in extent and is bounded on all sides by lofty hills. It is about 25 feet from the surface of the ground to the bottom of the cave. I have been unable to learn when this cave was first discovered. It was known to the earliest settlers, and they no doubt learned of its existence from the Indians. It contains 9 chambers, or rooms. These apartments are connected by narrow galleries. All but the third one from the entrance are mathematically regular in shape, being each about 30 feet in length, 20 feet in width, and 15 in height. These galleries are of the same height as the main rooms, but are only 6 feet wide. The excavation passes through a solid ledge of freestone, which is bisected about 100 feet from the mouth of a vein of limestone. The chamber where the limestone crops out is of irregular shape. The water has oozed through the limestone rock for ages and formed thousands of beautiful stalactites and stalagmites. The cave is much visited by picnic parties, and every corner of it has been thoroughly explored 1,000 times. Continuing here, it says here a second cavern found, the family tomb of a race of gigantic men. It says here the fourth chamber has a deep well in one corner, at the bottom of which is a stream of water. The depth of the well is unknown, but it must be several hundred feet. A few days ago, a party of gentlemen paid a visit to this cave, equipped to explore this mysterious well. 45 feet from the top of the well, they found the entrance to a second cavern, which proved to be the family tomb of a race of gigantic men. A narrow gallery which expanded as they left the well behind them opened into a lofty chamber 225 feet long and 110 feet wide. The walls, floor, and roof of this immense room are smoothly finished. In the center of the apartment is a sarcophagus and mausoleum combined. The mausoleum at its base measures 55 by 35 feet. It is of simple, though beautiful design, and carved out of the solid rock. Its base is parallel on all sides. These panels contain bas reliefs which are supposed to illustrate the 4 seasons in man's life: childhood, youth, manhood, and old age. All right, so you guys hear what they're finding here in this cave. At the ends of the bas reliefs are tables full of written characters resembling the Hebraic, all right, Hebrew characters in this cave they're finding here, presumed to be memoriams of the persons in whose honor the mausoleum is erected. The carvings on the panels is of the most delicate description and fully equal to the Grecian school of sculpture. In the limits of a newspaper article, they cannot be described as they deserve. From the floor to the top of this base is 6 feet. The base is hollowed out at the 4 corners, and these excavations are covered with slabs of freestone, accurately fitted and so firmly cemented that a cold chisel struck with a heavy hammer made little or no impressions on the cement. They are of uniform size, measuring 5 by 12 feet. In the center of the mausoleum rises a couch, 2 feet 5 inches in height, 12 feet in length, and 5 feet in width. On this couch is extended the figure of a man. It is probably life-size and measures 9 feet 4 inches in length. The limbs are finely proportioned and disposed in an easy and graceful manner. The arms are folded across the breast, and the fingers clasp a bunch of leaves resembling oak. which are reproduced with great fidelity to nature. The figures partially nude, a mantle or scarf crossing the breast and falling over the loins in graceful folds. The face is one of the great strength and beauty, and the outline and counter are decidedly Israelitish. Okay, listen to what they're finding in these caves here, guys. All right, they're saying is not me. The head is covered with a winged. All right, and then it ends there. We go to the next part, which is in the same article. It says here, at each corner of the mausoleum rises a covered pyramidal column surmounted by caps that are unmistakably Doric. All right, listen to this. This is the same place. All right, this cave in Ohio. On two sides of the room are tombs of humbler design. They are side by side, uniform size and 20 in number, 10 on each side. Like the mausoleum, they are carved out of the solid rock and embellished with bas reliefs. On the front of each is a raised scroll, covered with written characters similar to those on the panels of the mausoleum. On the wall of the room opposite to the entrance are painted 25 faces. They are faded and blurred, but still distinct enough to be deciphered. The colors used are red, yellow, black, and white, and were mixed with oil. The portraits are executed in a superior manner, and the anatomical proportion of the features is preserved to an exact degree. The explorers opened one of the small tombs. It contained a splendidly preserved mummy. All right, listen to this mummy, swathed in cloth covered with a thick varnish, which emits a pleasant aromatic odor, not unlike balsam of fir. The mummy measures 9 feet 1 inch in length. All right, a 9-foot mummy, and clothes with which it is wrapped, although of coarse texture, is skillfully woven. One of the party cut the wrappings from the face, but did it so clumsily that the head crumbled into dust. Portions of the hair remained sticking to the cloth, and your correspondent has some of it before him while this article is being written. It is black, curly. The hair is what? Black and curly, and of fine texture. Besides the body of the giant, the tomb contained a spearhead, a hatchet, 2 lances, 3 mattocks or hoes, a spade, a cup, 2 plates, and a small urn, all of copper. All right, all of copper. You know that's from here. Talking about Michigan. What we talking about? Copper, man, the purest copper in the world. The smallest cup and one of the lances have been shown your correspondent. These wonderful people understood the secret of hardening copper, for an ordinary file will barely scratch the lance, and the edge of a cold chisel turns up like lead when struck against it. The cup is of softer metal and beautifully engraved with trailing vines and refs. A square package at the head of the tomb, wrapped in the varnished cloth, contained a book of 100 leaves of thin copper, fastened loosely at the top, and crowned with finely engraved characters similar to those already described, all right? Similar to what they're saying, Hebraic, Hebrew characters. And we're going to continue with another part of the article. It says here, the Sun representative visited the cave and examined it thoroughly. The upper cave was evidently the cellar of a house above ground and used for domestic purposes or a place of retreat in case of an attack by an enemy. In the first 2 chambers and in the last 5 are many curious blocks of stone shaped like tables and bricks, which have heretofore been thought of natural origin. The marks of chisel and picks are found on them, however, and these artificial agents formed the whole cavern. The irregularity of the limestone chamber is due to natural causes. In all probability, this room was dry when the wonderful people who designed and built it were alive. The stalactites and stalagmites have formed since. I measured one of the largest of the former. It was 5 feet 6 and 1/2 inches from base to apex, allowing that it lengthened at the rate of 1 inch every 50 years, which a geological friend tells me is very rapid growth. It would have been 3,325 years, reaching its present length. Conjecture alone can fix the date of the last occupancy of the cave. It must have been years before the stalactites began to form. The owner of the farm on which the cave is situated has associated with himself several gentlemen of capital, and they intend opening the tombs and the big mausoleum put in stairways, and then advertising the curiosities and throwing the cave open to the general public. Mr. Groom is anxious to have the cave examined by an expert, and an account of discoveries together with the engraved book and the tools found in the tomb will be at once forwarded to the Smithsonian Institution. Uh-oh. Now you guys see why we don't know about this cave? And as you guys can see, this is what they found here, all right, in Ohio. This cave with many chambers, reported by a correspondent of the New York Sun. Again, they never told us about any of this. And you see at the end, the Smithsonian came in and took it away and hid it. We continue reading from the Ancient American Magazine. This is volume 1, issue number 2. This article right here is called The Wall of a Giant City by Frank Joseph. And this is a famous wall they found in Illinois. It's called the Lewis Wall. Just real quick, it says here, spreading for several hundred acres in all directions are the natural stone columns and twisting canyon, which gave this part of the Shawnee National Forest its name, Giant City. The fabulous sheer cliffs and colossal embankments do indeed seem to have been crafted by the ogres of Indian legend, no less impressive for not having been sculpted by the titanic forces of time and water. The Lewis Wall is unquestionably man-made, but by whom? Native American tradition assigns its construction to the same antediluvian giants who fashioned the rest of the park, okay? Giants again. They were said to have arrived at the eastern shores of Turtle Island, North America, sailing rafts from the destruction wrought by a great flood, the great flood. And then giants came. Eventually they reached the Shawnee Forest, which the gods had already sanctified, partially a spot of ground atop a cliff. Here the giants erected a stone wall to mark off the area as a sacred precinct. In time they died off, but their sturdy rampart, revered by generations of subsequent Plains Indians, defied the years. The old wall perfectly bisects the top of a steep cliff, running on linear east-west axis for 285 feet, 6 feet at its highest point, with an average thickness of 4 feet. The structure is a dry stone battlement comprising an estimated 40,000 stones, weighing altogether about 200,000 tons. In view of the fact that all these stones were handed up the sheer incline from the dry riverbed 100 feet below, its construction seems all the more remarkable. The labor to build such a structure was certainly gigantic, at least on a scale of social organization. The wall was raised ingeniously by fitting together mostly flat stones, chosen for size and a rough, uniform fit. Its great age attests to the skill of its engineers. When Caesar Augustus ruled in Rome, the southern Illinois wall was new. The stone's partition's construction has been radiocarbon dated to the 1st century, plus or minus 100 years. It is the work of an unknown people who occupied the area for the next 4 centuries, then vanished for undetermined reasons. Again, you guys see the recurring theme. They try to say all these people went missing, they disappeared, they went extinct. We don't know who they are. Oh, I wonder whatever happened to these people. You're still here. That it has stood largely intact for 20 centuries in this major earthquake zone is proof of its high-level construction. Here's a picture of the structure and part of the forest here in Illinois. A pile of stones, it looks like, but sometimes you might run into it as actually a wall, man-made. All right, again, remember 200 tons, and it used to go on for miles. But the giant city wall is not unique. It was once part of a network of stone ramparts spanning hundreds of miles, all right? Just like I said, I told you. At least 8 other similar examples, likewise situated atop forested cliffs, were arranged in general line across southern Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and down into Tennessee. Strangely, all were built, occupied, and abandoned within the same time period. While a single wall site still stands in Tennessee and 2 of the Ohio forts survive, all the Indiana walls were demolished in the 19th century by early settlers who regarded them as handy quarries for building wells and the foundations of farms, all right? So they started destroying all these walls and using the stone for their own uses. Remember my video of all these ancient stone walls and forts in the forests here in North America, a lot in the Appalachian Mountains and region. from all the way to Canada, all the way down to Georgia, Tennessee, as they're saying here, is part of it. Just the same force they're talking about. This wall right here has something to do with it. They were all connected during the same time period, they're saying. The same fate befell most of the Illinois ramparts, but a few are still hidden under thick woodland growth on private property. The giant city wall is the only such ancient edifice in Illinois still accessible to visitors. All right, and this is another picture right here, as you guys can see, of the structure, this wall, man-made wall. They don't know who built it, huh? It's very ancient. Continuing, we have a vast amphitheater, Rhode Island, 1896. It says here, a vast amphitheater, a remarkable prehistoric discovery in the Miami Valley. The visit of an archaeologist to the village of Spring Valley, Ohio, in the Miami Valley, where a mound was recently opened and 4 prehistoric giants found. Again, what giants in the mounds? Prehistoric giants, has resulted in the discovery in the vicinity of an immense amphitheater, fashioned mostly by the hands of men, and which had evidently at different times in the faraway past been filled with thousands of people. Residents of the neighborhood did not realize its value to archaeology, and consequently nothing was said about it. Not far away from the mountain in which the remains of the prehistoric giants were recently exhumed is a chain of embankments that at one time guarded the approach to a plateau covering about 30 acres. The inner chain has a length of about 120 yards and extends from one ravine to another. Between 2 of the chains is a good-sized mound. Southeast of this fort is the amphitheater, capable of holding probably 25,000 people. You guys hear this? We're talking about a real theater here in ancient times, right? In America, it holds up to 25,000 people. It is cut into the side of a hill. At the entrance to the amphitheater is a mound, the base of which is made of various kinds of clay and which has become very hard, all right? A mound with it. On top of the mound is a basin, which is filled with sand, gravel, and burnt substances to a depth of probably 30 inches. It is believed that this was some kind of sacrificial altar and that the people congregated in the amphitheater for religious purposes. Scores of people have been visiting the place daily since the recent finds were made. The discovery is regarded as a most important one. Cleveland Plain Dealer. All right, whatever happened to this amphitheater, in Ohio, in the Miami Valley, and all these giants they found, Got a quick one right here. It says a prehistoric race. Some interesting discoveries made at Nashville. It says here March 5th, near Cleveland, Tennessee, the work of a prehistoric race has been discovered in the shape of a wall, now underground, another underground wall. It is 5 feet high and 100 yards long. Some stones bear inscriptions in hieroglyphic characters. The wall evidently antedates the mound builders. Okay, this is old, under Tennessee. Continue waking up with analog. It's a panorama of the world, about that which has been and is to be. All sides and conditions of things are shown, nothing overlooked to make it complete. Find remains of prehistoric men. A special from Big Timber, Montana says, wonderful discoveries of fossils and bones of prehistoric men and animals are being made in the Fish Creek country by Professor M.S. Farr and a party of students from Princeton University. In the remains of a city belonging to the Stone Age, another ancient city they're finding. According to them, in the Stone Age, Professor Farr found the bones of animals of immense size and many crude instruments, many of them ornamented with gems. Near the creek was found almost complete the skeleton of a man 9 feet high. Okay, talking about a giant here, 9 feet high. How many more reports do we need so you guys can see this is real historic stuff? They were finding this. Not everybody was lying. All these newspapers cannot be lying. They have no need to. And another skeleton, somewhat smaller, was found nearby, probably being that of a woman. Bones believed to have belonged to a dog the size of a horse were also discovered. A horse? A dog that big, huh? Oh, wow. All right, you guys hear what they're finding here, okay? All right, we're going to continue here reading another article, this time from the Ancient American Magazine. This is volume 1, issue number 3, and this one's called Stones of Atlantis, all right? But again, these main articles we're going to get to in full-length videos because they're longer articles. We're going to come into this magazine right now to read specific articles for today's video. It says here, Ancient Egyptians of New Mexico, by Barbara Holly Rock. In April 1991, my colleagues and I first viewed the inscription carved on gray limestone atop a narrow valley with about 1,000-foot drop to the valley floor. The view from the site was immense. We could see both north up the narrowed valley for several miles and south down to the open plain horizon. Access to this site is up the west side of the mountain trail cut by wagon tracks, then across the mountaintop by foot to a narrow ledge facing west. A month later, other members returned to take infrared photographs of the inscription and to make a plastic mold. The inscription is precisely drafted with evenly spaced characters on visible straight lines. The salutation, on, is left and above the three-line message. The right of the bottom line is another complex character which I will refer to as the signature. Another complex symbol is below the three lines. Since we were then affiliated with Fell's Epigraphic Society, I asked for opinions to the origin and date of the inscription. 3 opinions were offered concerning only its national origin: Hmong, Western Ojibwas, Indian, and Demotic Egyptian. None were offered for the translation or possible date. So real quick, this is some of the inscription right here. You guys can see. All right, just a photograph. Let me just go back to the article. It says Gloria Farley gave us a copy of the article, Egyptian and Hmong Clues to a Western American Petroglyph Group, by the late Dr. Paul Cheeseman and David Tomlinson. We learned that the inscription made of 19 different symbols had 10 matches to those shown by Cheeseman and Tomlinson. Therefore, there was 55% probability that our inscription may have the same language base as the Hmong inscriptions. But what was the Hmong's language base? The Western Ojibwa's origin of the inscription was researched and discarded because the Ojibwas originated around the Great Lakes area of Canada, making it doubtful that they were ever ranged from Southern California through the mountains eastward into New Mexico and Colorado. They practiced intermarriage not only with all their neighboring Indian tribes, but also with other races, French trappers, all right? With the who? With the Huguenots? With the French, yeah, Black French. Therefore, their language would be a borrowed mixture from many sources. The Ojibwas, symbols and meanings from William Tompkins' Indian Sign Language made gibberish when applied to our three-line inscription. Since 25% of our petroglyphic symbols were mentioned in Tompkins' book, I discarded this as a national origin source. The third opinion, Demotic Egyptian, has been the best suggestion to determine a meaning and to point to a relevant national source. All of our symbols, 100% of them, were found in the Egyptian language sources that we consulted, okay? This is Egyptian hieroglyphics they're finding here in New Mexico. So then they break down what hieroglyphic writing is here and what time periods and what demotic means and from what Egyptian kingdom it comes from. He says demotic writing originated in northern Egypt, and it was used by Herodotus and other Greeks for writing daily documents. So this is what they're finding here, okay? They're giving you the time frame of this possible Egyptian inscription here in New Mexico. Again, things they never tell us. Here they are right here. And you guys can do the comparison on your own. But yeah, this is a supposed translation, right? Greetings, hail integrity, village, time to live, as signposts of death by last inundation had broken the authority from crescent moon to crescent moon for a month, to be in front of or lead a return to cut the clouds above, at the end time to live. Offerings and sacrifices are the way one's love. Seems like sign about a flood and surviving. We got another one here. We just keep getting some more wonderful discoveries. of prehistoric remains. And this time it has been made at Arkadelphia, Arkansas, 20 miles south of the hot springs, consistent of a road from 800 to 1,000 years old. A road skeletons of primitive giants, 7 feet high, giants again, 7 feet high, all constituting an archaeological bonanza, which is to be immediately and thoroughly worked. All right, and what happened? Nothing happened. Smithsonian came around, and we don't know what happened. And we just continue, all right, with more wonderful discoveries coming out of Tennessee. 1864, this report, an ancient Indian catacomb and relics found in Montana. $100,000 treasure and gold secured from the Leavenworth commercial. All right, we're talking about real gold here. Listen to this. In July last, a company of 5 prospectors was made up in Helena who haven't heard of the unexplored country around the head of the Yellowstone, determined to visit that district in search of lodes. The country was found to be almost entirely free from Indians, and there was an abundance of game until they arrived within 2 days' journey of Yellowstone Lake, when the scene entirely changed, the country being entirely barren and permeated in every direction with hot springs and fissures in the rock from which issue smoke and nauseous gases. Continuing their journey through a scorching atmosphere and encountering some peril among the rough and irregular ridges of bare rock, which everywhere distinguished the landscape, the travelers on the 3rd day came to the margin of a small lake from which issued a river, which they judged would lend to the Yellowstone. After following the stream for some time, they came to a long, irregular mound crowned on the summit of an ancient stone cairn, similar to those seen in some parts of New Mexico. All right, so this is a mound they're finding up here, okay? Mounds, which was half concealed in grass and a grove of low bushes. As the work of removing the stones did not appear to be a difficult one, they being uncemented and of medium size, it was proposed to open the cairn, which was done after half a day's labor, and below was found a solid cemented floor, which sounded hollow to the tread. Being, however, determined to complete their work, the travelers, after some labor, dug down some 12 inches when they came to an immense stone, 7 feet long, which it took the united strength of the party to remove. Beneath there was a long, low chamber, and when the eyes of the intruders became accustomed to the darkness, it was seen that an Indian catacomb had been unearthed. Seated in a single row around the quadrangle were the remains of upwards of 30 warriors. Listen to what they're finding here, guys, in the U.S., ancient America, that they never told us about, from whose forms the flesh had long since moldered away, and whose very bones crumbled into dust at the touch of the spectator. On the door around lay numerous instruments of the war or chase, some of iron and some of stone, and the entire apartment was covered with a fine and almost impalpable dust, which was all that remained of the furs and robes with which this abode of death had doubtless at one time been carpeted. Lying beside the bones were numerous ornaments, indicating the rank of the dead, and among them were many of those twisted circles of gold known to antiquarians as torques, which had at one time entwined the necks, all right, chains, all right, they had gold chains, necks, and the arms of their savage owners, and they still want to call them savage, right? But they had all this gold. Some of these were unusual size, weighing 1.5 to 2 pounds. Listen to this. They had big, large chains that weighed up to 2 pounds, and many minor ornaments of the same precision metals were also secured by the happy finders. They found a real treasure. These ancient warriors, right? They were decked out in gold chains of unusual size, large, big chains. Who does that remind you of? Come on now. It's all about culture, all right? It has nothing to do with hip hop. So before we leave today, guys, I wanted to show you this location right here in Canada. A lot of you already know this. You know, you could say, well, that's, you know, making up things. That's your opinion. That's conjecture. But I just want to leave it here for you. You guys interpret it yourself. You know, this is the Badlands Guardian. It's called the Badlands Guardian. Why is it called the Guardian, huh? And as you guys can see when we zoom in, there's almost like a figure of a head here, right? A face. You guys can see the nose, the mouth, the eyes facing that way. what appears to be either feathers or a turban. And this is in Canada. Let me back up so you guys can see where exactly. All right, back up some more. You guys can see where that is located, on top of Montana. So let me just zoom into it again. You guys can see. All right, one more time. And here it is. You tell me. This is on another website here, researchgate.net, and you know they're also making the correlation, as you guys can see here, a better look at it. Badlands Guardian Alberta, Canada, huh? What are we really looking at here, guys? What are we really looking at here? I found this. This was a pretty good. I think, you know, that does kind of look like feathers. So it might be even a male instead of a woman. Some people say it's a woman with a turban. And it could be so many things, but it does look like a face. Don't you guys think so? I thought it was pretty interesting. So I wanted to leave that for you right there. Again, the Badlands Guardian in Canada. So shout out to Waking Up with Analog. Make sure to follow on Twitter, 1_analog_9. Thanks for sharing all your finds with us. So I hope you guys enjoyed this somewhat short video. And these articles, hope you guys enjoying these newspaper articles. Much love and respect to each one of you. Thanks for all the support throughout the years. If you're new, thanks for taking the time to be here. Welcome. Pura vida, mi gente. Hawa.